Hello guys, Luke for Smith here, and today we're gonna switch it up a little bit. I'm actually gonna do a reading of my well, not of my, of a creepypasta. I've actually done this before without knowing it. When I read Cupcakes, I did not know what creepypastas was, and I just found out that was one, and that was a lengthy one. That was 6 pages. I had to download that. This one is going to be called Squidward Suicide. Now, this is a graphic one, which means it's got words like blood and guts and blowing brains, that kind of thing. Basically, what these are not true. These are only stories, so they do not happen. So don't worry and don't throw a fit over it. Anyway, let's read it. Squidward Suicide. I just want to start off by saying, if you want an answer at the end, prepare to be disappointed. There isn't one. I was an admin at Nickelodeon Studios for a year in 2005 for my degree in animation. It wasn't a paid course. It wasn't paid, of course. Most internships aren't. But it did have some perks beyond education. To adults, it might not seem like a big one, but most kids at the time would go crazy over it. Now, since I work directly with the editors and animators, I got to view the new episodes days before they aired. I'll get right to it without getting too many unnecessary details. They had very recently made the SpongeBob movie, and the entire staff was somewhat sapped of creativity. So it took them longer to start up the new season. But the delay lasted longer for some upsetting reasons. There was a problem with Series 4 premiere that set everyone and everything back several months. I'm now just gonna... There we are, I can read it better. Me and 2 other interns were in the editing room along with the lead animators and sound editors for the final cut. We received a copy that was supposed to be Fear of Krabby Patty. We gathered round the screen to watch. Now, given this wasn't the final yet, animators often put up mock title card. Sort of an inside joke for us, with phony and often lewd titles such as How Sex Doesn't Work instead of Rockabye Welt. When SpongeBob and Patrick adopt a sea scallop. Nothing particularly funny, but word related chuckles. So when we saw the title card Squidward's Suicide, we didn't think of it more to be than a morbid joke. One of the interns did a small throat laugh at it. The happy-go-lucky music plays. The normal story began with Squidward practicing his clarinet, hitting a few sour notes like normal. We hear SpongeBob laughing outside. Squidward stops, yelling at him to keep it down, as he has a concert that night and needs to practice. SpongeBob says okay, and then goes to see Sandy with Patrick. The bubble splash screen comes up, and we see the ending of Squidward's concert. This is when things began to seem off. After playing, a few frames repeated themselves, but the sound doesn't. At this point, the sound is synced up with animation, so yes, it's not common. But when he stops playing, the sound finishes as if it never happened, as if the skip never happened. There is a slight mumbling in the crowd as they begin to boo him, not normal cartoon booing that is common in the show, but you could very clearly hear malice in it. Squidward was in full frame and looks visibly afraid. The shot goes to the crowd with SpongeBob in the centre frame. He too is booing. Very unlike him. That isn't the oddest thing. What is odd that everyone has hyper-realistic eyes, very detailed, clearly not the shots of normal people's, or clearly not shots of real people's eyes, but something a bit more real than CGI. The pupils were red. Some of us looked at each other, obviously confused, but since we aren't the writers, we didn't question the appeal to children yet. The shot goes to Squidward sitting on the edge of his bed, looking very full on. The view from his porthole window is of a starry night sky. So it isn't very long after his concert. The unsettling part is this is at the point where there's no sound, literally no sound. Not even feedback from the speakers was heard in the room. It's as if the speakers were turned off, though their status has showed them working perfectly. He sat there blinking in silence for about 30 seconds. Then he started to sob softly. He put his hands, tentacles, over his eyes and cried for about a full minute more. All the while a sound in the background is slowly growing from nothing to barely audible. It sounded like a slight breeze through a forest. Screen slowly begins to zoom in on his face. By slow, I mean it's only noticeable if you look at 10 shots at shots 10 seconds apart, side by side. His sobbing is getting louder and full of hurt and anger. The screen twitches a little bit, as if it twists on in itself for a split second and then goes back to normal. The wind through the trees gets slowly louder and more severe, as if a storm is brewing somewhere. The eerie part is this sound and Squidward sobbing. Squidward sobbing sounded real, as if it wasn't coming from the speakers, but if the speakers were holes in it. I'll start again in a minute. And Squidward sobbing sounded real, as if the sound wasn't coming from the speakers, but as if the speakers were holes, the sound was coming through the other side. As good as sound as a studio likes to have, but that they don't purchase the equipment to be that good to produce that kind of sound quality. Below, the sound of wind and sobbing very faint. Something sounded like laughing. It came at odd intervals and never lasted more than a second, so you had a hard time pinning it. We watched the show twice, so pardon me if things sound too sophisticated, but we had a time to think about them. About 30 seconds of this. The screen blurred and twitched violently, and something flashed over the screen as a single frame was replaced. The lead animation editor paused and rewound frame by frame. What we saw was horrible. It was a still photo of a dead child. He couldn't have been more than 6. The face was mangled and bloodied, one eye dangling from his upturned face. He was naked down to his underwear. His stomach crudely cut open and his entrails laying beside him. He was laying on the pavement. That was probably a road. The most upsetting part was that there was a shadow of a photographer. There was no crime tape, no evidence, tags or markers. The angle was completely off for a shot designed to be evidence. But it would have seemed that the photographer was the person responsible for the child's death. We were mortified, but pressed on, hoping it was a sick joke. Screen flipped back to Squidward, sobbing louder. louder than before, and half body in frame. There was now a period of blood running from down his face from his eyes. The blood was done in hyper-realistic style, looking like if you touched the blood it would get on your fingers. The wind sounded like if it was a gale blowing through the forest. Then there were even snapping sounds of the branches, the laughing, a deep tone, lasting longer interviews coming in more frequently. After 20 seconds, the screen twisted and it showed a single frame photo. Just had to click something. The editor was reluctant to go back, we all were, but we knew we had to. The photo was that of appeared to be a little girl no older than the first child. She was laying on her stomach, her brackets, whatever that is, in a pool of blood next to her. Her left eye was popped to and popped out, naked except for underpants. Her entrails was piled on top of her, above another crude cut along her back. Again, the body was out in the streets, and the photographer's shadow was visible. Very similar to the shape of the first. I had to choke back the vomit as one intern, the only female in the room right now, show resumed. Yeah, it's getting a bit crazy now, guys. After 5 seconds, after this second photo was played, Squidward went silent, and as did all the sound. Like it was when the scene started. He put his tentacles down, and his eyes were done in hyper-realism, just like the others in the beginning of the episode. They were bleeding, bloodshot, and pulsating. He just stared at the screen, watching the viewer. After about 10 seconds, he started sobbing. This time, and not covering eyes. The sound was piercing and loud, almost fear-inducing. Of all this sobbing was mixed with screams. Tears and blood were dripping down his face at heavy rate. The wind seemed to come back. So did the deep voice laughing. And this time, the still photo lasted for a good 5 frames. I don't know animation, so I wouldn't know what 5 frames is. Okay. The animator was able to stop it on the 4th frame and backed up. The photo was of a boy, the same age this time. Scene was different. Entrails was being pulled out from the stomach, wound by a large hand. The right eye was popped and dangled, blood trickling through it. The animator proceeded. Hard to believe. It was hard to believe, but the next one was different, and we could not tell what. He went to the next, same thing. He want to go back and play the first. He went back to the first and played them quicker. Then I lost it. I vomited all over the floor. The animators and sound editors were gasping at the scene. At the screen. The 5 frames were not as if there were 5 different photos. They were played as if they were frames from a video. We saw the hand slowly lift out the guts. We saw the eye, we saw the kid's eye focus on it. We even saw the frames of the kids beginning to blink. Yeah. The lead sound editor told us to stop. We had to call the creator to see this. Mr. Hindenburg arrived within about 15 minutes. He was confused as to why he was called down here, so the editor just continued with the episode. Once the new frames are shown, all the screaming, all the sound stopped again. Squidward was just staring at the viewer. Full frame of the face for about 3 seconds. The shot quickly panned out, and a deep voice says, "Do it." we could and we see in Squidward's hand a shotgun. He immediately puts the gun into his mouth and pulls the trigger. Realistic blood and brain matter splatters on the wall behind him and his bed, and he flies back with the force. The last 5 seconds of the episode showing his body on the bed, by his side, one eye dangling to the left of his head above the floor, staring blankly at it. Then the episode ends. Mr. Hindelberg is obviously angry at this. He demanded to know what the heck was going on. Most people left the room at this point, so it was a handful of us to watch it again. Viewing the episode twice only served to imprint the entirety of my mind and cause me horrid nightmares. I'm sorry I stayed. My only theory of this I could think of is if the file was edited by someone in the chain of drawing studios to here. My CTO was called to analyse what happened. The analysis of the file did show it to be edited over by new material. However, the timestamp was a mere 24 seconds before he started viewing it. All the equipment involved was examined for foreign software and hardware as well as glitches, as if the timestamp may have glitched and showed us the wrong time, but everything checked out fine. I don't know what happened, and to this day nobody does. There was an investigation due to the nature of the photos, but nothing came of it. No child was identified and no clues were gathered from the data involved, nor physical clues in the photos. I never believed in unexplainable phenomena before, but now I have something happen and I can't prove anything about it beyond analytical evidence. I think twice about things. Okay, that was the creepypasta thing. Just zoom it out a little bit. 1, 2, 3, 4, 3. Okay, that was the episode. Yes, it was very disturbing at least, but it is not true. Like I said, all these creepypastas are stories and stuff like that. I will do another one next month. I was meant to do this one last month. I was actually planning it for Christmas Eve, really. Don't know why, just something to get used to. Anyway, it will be a casual thing, monthly, like the shout out videos. I hope you enjoy this, and I hope you don't get nightmares. But that was it for Squidward Suicide. So until next time, see you guys.